Use your powers for evil,
Your evil is mine.
Hello and welcome to Next Stop Everywhere, your one-stop shop for all Doctor Who stuff. I'm Jesse Jackson.
And I'm Charles Skaggs.
And tonight we are going to talk about a Mission Impossible tape.
So does it self-destruct in 5 seconds?
No, it doesn't.
Oh, good.
Not really having that bad of a day. Heels and Chinese food in the TARDIS. That's right, we're going to talk Time Heist. So, quick thoughts, Charles. What do you think of this 5th episode of our new era?
Let's see. This was written by Stephen Thompson, who some of you may know that wrote a couple of pretty bad episodes, including The Curse of the Black Spot and Journey to the Center of the TARDIS. So my expectations with this were kind of like not really low, but they were kind of low, kind of guarded.
Okay.
Fortunately, I was very pleasantly surprised with how this episode turned out, especially with Douglas McKinnon directing again. He was the guy who directed Listen previously. So he seems to have a good handle with Capaldi's Doctor, I think. And the way this episode came out for me, I mean, it basically, like you said, it's like a Mission Impossible episode from the 1960s, or anything like Ocean's 11, or Reservoir Dogs, or just one of those just very cool heist episodes with cool slow-mo walks in the entrance and that kind of cool like heisty vibe that makes these kinds of stories really good. And another great contrast to the previous episodes that we've gotten so far this series.
I am right there with you, Charles. I really like the episode. And even in my notes, as they're walking in slow motion, there is a James Bond adventure type theme very quietly underneath, and so once again, a great score that fits the mood. And
Murray Gold did a nice job.
Yes, and I guess we should just record that and hit that play every time, because I'm always talking about how much I love his themes. And it also, one of my friends at work was talking about this, and he sent me some text, and I'll read that in a little bit when we get toward the end of the show. We're talking about feedback, but I said I love the timey-wimey layers of this story, where it keeps being a different kind of heist, and so, which is always fun, which is always very much what the Doctor should be about.
Yeah, as the 12th Doctor said so eloquently, it's not a heist, it's a time heist.
Yes. Very wonderful. So we start out again. He likes parking the TARDIS in her bedroom.
Yeah, no symbolism there.
None at all. And
Freud would have a field day with that.
Yes,
I'm sure.
Clara looks so lovely. I always love the loose tie, and
yeah,
and
that was a very Reservoir Dogs look.
Yes,
he had on, with the suit and tie.
It was so funny too. He's trying to convince her to go do something, and she's like, "Look at me, I've got a date." And she's like, "Look at me," and he's, "Look at me." It was so funny.
Why is your face all colored?
Yeah, he doesn't pick up the clues very well from her. So I that was really funny. And are you taller? Heels. So, and we get to only a very small scene with Danny, but I don't know if he'll ever be articulate in front of Clara. That was a really nice exchange where she says, "You got the words out, not in the right order, but you are a math teacher, right?"
Right. So obviously it's nice contrast that you have this guy who was a former soldier just he fumbles around women and can't express himself of someone he really is attracted to. So that's nice.
He continues to be very charming from my perspective. Um, uh, it appears to be a pretty nice guy. Very nice.
They seem to be he seems to be on a collision course with the Doctor eventually, obviously. So I think next week's episode, the caretaker, is probably going to be when we get that first run in finally. But so we'll see how that turns out.
I think you're right. I did thought it was a little interesting, kind of as we should when we're discussing a show that's about time travel. Jump to the very end where the Doctor's, and I think not in a romantic way, just I want to be the most interesting person in Clara's life because that's how he thinks, and to go, rob the bank. Try that with a date,
Yep. So do you think there's any jealousy there?
I don't think so. I think it is just purely
protectiveness,
and I want to be, as I said, the most interesting person in your life. I want you, if you have to choose between going to doing something on a date with Danny or going on an adventure with me, of course you're going to pick an adventure with me.
So it's more selfishness.
Yes, I think so. What do you think?
I think there's obviously some self-interest there, but yeah, at this point, I mean that I know we're jumping ahead, but that bit at the end where, like you said, he's talking about like try robbing a bank.
Mm-hmm.
Try that for a second date or whatever. And I think there's this. He's almost in competition with Danny for Clara's attention.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage. So yeah, there's that kind of self-interest on his part, but I think there's a little, maybe there's a reason for his concern about these two being together.
Okay.
So I don't know. We'll find out more later. Obviously, I think next week is going to add a lot to that little puzzle, and we'll get a better grasp about what's going on. But yeah, it's very interesting to kind of see how he's deliberately kind of mucking with her relationship a bit.
Yes. I thought it was a really good teaser because we get the phone, and nothing happens when you answer the phone. I wish I could do his accent. And all of a sudden you pop up with all four of them at the table, holding the worms, and was glad to see the worms back. I think the worms give you a lot of room for comedy, even though they're actually very scary. The idea that you could forget everything.
Yeah, they were great. They were used really in a fun way, and the snowmen.
Right.
So it's nice kind of to see that concept being brought back. And like you said, it could be a really dangerous concept because if I recall correctly from the snowmen, the Doctor said the longer that you hold on to them and touch them, the more of your memories you lose, the farther back it goes. So yeah, you could potentially just completely wipe someone's entire life out.
Yeah. I also liked the way they introduced the four characters. And it was almost like you were going on trial, you being sworn in. I had my mind wiped of my own volition and kind of set up each of the characters. And we have the mysterious architect sending them on a dangerous mission.
The architect. I mean, that was I think there was a nice little mystery going on with who's this mysterious architect behind it. But once we got that whole exchange of the Doctor where he's like, like he's overbearing, manipulative. He likes to think he's very clever. And I'm thinking, well, you're talking about yourself, okay? So obviously, the Doctor must be behind everything.
So I think I had
he always has that relationship with that kind of argument with himself whenever doctors meet.
Mm-hmm.
So it just kind of came across to me that it's the Doctor behind everything.
I had a little bit of that too, even before he had that speech, and then once he had the speech, I knew that was it, and I think they wanted us that.
Right.
The bank was an interesting concept, really good visuals, and like all great caper movies, they're setting up the obstacles beforehand. And I just love that part of any kind of this movie is, kind of foreshadowing, here's all the things you're going to have to get through. And then kind of what's coming next.
But it always doesn't go according to plan sometimes because you got to create conflict and drama and everything. So
absolutely,
none of these heist movies ever run like clockwork unless you're just trying to quickly breeze through something.
Yes.
So
any thoughts on Mrs. Delphox?
Yes, I actually was a little familiar with the actress because of watching the BBC series Ashes to Ashes, which is a spin-off of the classic series Life on Mars that had the master, John Sim, in it.
Okay.
And so I was very familiar with her, but, in Ashes to Ashes, she's, just this, she's the lead character heroine. But in this, to kind of see her in this villainous role was a nice change. So I guess people always come on to be villains on Doctor Who because those are the best roles. So it was interesting, and then I kind of it was a nice twist with the whole revelation of her being a clone of Miss Cara Braxis.
Right.
And I thought that was a really interesting revelation.
Yeah. It's a little early, and so I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder. Have you ever watched the movie Paycheck with Ben Affleck?
No.
Okay. It is. I know a lot of people do not have good things to say about Ben Affleck. At
least before Argo.
Right.
After Argo, they say nicer things.
Yes.
But before Argo, not so much.
It is. It is worth seeing because of the premise. His mind is wiped. He does coding for a computer, a big company, and they give you the idea is once you're done coding, they wipe your mind, and therefore you can't sell the code to someone else. And the premise is his mind's wiped. He goes to get his paycheck, and there's nothing there but this random items. And as you go through the movie, each of those items are similar to what the doctor ran into. He needed that. Mm-hmm. So it's worth checking if it's on Netflix or something, or it's on cable one time to kind of see. It's got a little similar vibe to that.
With a bit of a sci-fi element to it.
Yes, it does. Yes,
That's good.
Yeah, so it's very cool, and it's a John Woo movie.
Well, there you go.
Yeah,
John Woo's who directed Mission Possible 2.
Right. I did. I think it's very funny. Both Sai and Sabrina. Sabra.
Cybra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Who put you in charge?
Well, that's kind of like that comes up every so often, especially in the modern era, where the doctors just waltzes in and starts saying, okay, you do this and you do this and you do this, and everybody's just like, okay, why are you in charge? Who the hell are you? But that's just, it's fun because it's like the doctor's like, well, I'm the guy in charge because that's what I do.
And he gave two great answers. The first one was, "It's my special power. What's yours?" And then he said, "It's the eyebrows."
Right.
Which I thought of you because I know you love the eyebrow jokes.
Well, I've got Capaldi eyebrows, so
yes, I just thought that was great.
They're, with the eyebrows being played up because it's such a contrast from Matt Smith, who had, as Matt put it, delicate eyebrows.
Right. And I love it when he says it's because it's the eyebrows, and they cut to Clara kind of nodding, like, yeah, that's the reason why. Another good exchange was when they're walking. He says, "Robbing a bank is easy with the TARDIS. Why aren't I using it?" That was question 1. And she says, "Question 2, where is the TARDIS?" He goes, "Okay, that should have been question 1.
Well, that's the writer having to acknowledge that, this whole thing could be easy if you just materialized inside the vault.
Right.
And so So you have to like kind of like write the TARDIS out of the episode, and so that you can actually have the caper, as opposed to just like cutting right to the end.
And they did a timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly reason that's kind of the MacGuffin on why you couldn't use the TARDIS to
Right.
go into everything. So that was pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about how the TARDIS goes through time and space. I'm not sure why a solar storm would affect the TARDIS, but okay. It seems like a solar storm would be pretty much peanuts compared to the temporal vortex, but maybe that's just me.
Maybe so.
It seemed a little bit of a story flaw for me.
The and we get the great creature they call the Teller. Now we don't know what their true name is.
We'll just call him the Teller.
Yeah, which is a wonderful play on words because it's a bank. So you have the teller, but then because they can read the mind, they are telling.
Right.
For those of you who needed the obvious explained. And another great line was, what is that? I don't know. I hate not knowing. So what do you think of the Beast?
You mean the Teller,
the creature,
the Teller.
yes.
Yeah, the creature. I thought it was surprisingly effective. I mean, I wasn't sure when I saw the first images. I thought, well, maybe it's a little hokey looking, but and yeah, it's just a big rubbery monster. But I thought because of what it can do, and the ability that it could just completely drain your mind and apparently crush it into like a little compacted space. Made it much more of a menacing threat. And I like the direction that McKinnon did, where like when they go in and like you just kind of see glimpses of the Teller sitting in his cage, and like it was very ominous and spooky, and it was just that kind of classic Doctor Who feel that I just love.
Yeah, I totally agree. It was awesome, and and the whole soup thing, and just the great effects of the guy's face, his forehead being sunk because there's nothing left in there,
right?
Was really, really cool. We also got a little pep talk from the Doctor. Told Clara not to be pessimistic because it will affect the team morale. And she's like, and she counter argues, well, yeah, what if we get blown up? And he goes, yeah, but just for a moment. Morale will be bad just for a moment.
Yeah, because you'll be dead. You won't worry about it at that point. So, yeah, that was nice.
I liked how he called them Team Not Dead.
Yes, that was very popular, obviously, on Twitter with hashtags.
Team Not Dead. Bet.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was obviously and especially like when I was sitting there thinking, why are you calling them Team Not Dead? Because this is Doctor Who. Chances are they're going to be dead pretty quickly because Doctor Who. So, but then they played against that, which was nice because they kill them off, but then it's like, oh, surprise, they're not really dead. And, you kind of get that whole Ninth Doctor vibe. Just this once, everybody lives.
I thought of that. I also thought of the Cyber and the Doctor have a nice exchange back and forth, which later becomes important. Because she's explaining how her gift can be a curse. And then I wrote on my notes, then of course, nice exchange between Cyber and the Doctor. Then of course she has to kill herself because of the Teller.
Right.
And hi Lou, if you're listening, the Doctor did seem cold again. And this is where we would have a little footnote that old Darth on Twitter, one of my other podcast friends, doesn't like the Doctor because he thinks he's too cold when people die. And
so what? Go ahead. I was just going to say, what would Lou think then of the Doctor if he's so cold? And why would he come up with this whole plan to rescue the Teller's mate so that the Teller and his mate could go off and be together?
Very good point.
Obviously, that's not the work of a cold guy. That's the Doctor we know and love. I'm sorry.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, yeah, he can be cold and standoffish for a minute, but a lot of the Doctors have been that way. So it's not just this one.
Exactly.
But the thing is, the main point is that the Doctor cares underneath all the curmudgeon looks and comments and the snark or whatever. That yes, he cares about beings, not just humans, but he cares about aliens and wanting them to live, and this whole issue of the Teller not being like his mate being imprisoned and that he was forced into this. That apparently bothered him enough to stage this whole thing from the beginning.
Yeah, I agree, and that was my friend at work, Brandon. That was his thought. Is he said it seems like the Doctor was doing a lot for just a favor for someone he barely knew, and I said no, it was to free the Teller and his mate because they they're the last species, and he of course is very empathetic to that, being that he is the final, right?
Right.
So yeah, that made perfect sense to me that they would want to do that.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Now, going next, let's check my notes. We did get some running, but we didn't. We did hallways instead of corridors. But I always love the running, right?
Yeah, there's not as much running these days, but that's okay because I mean we get the point that there's running, so you don't have to do too much. We get it.
And this 12th Doctor seems to be a little less in shape. He seemed a little winded at the beginning, like, okay, far enough.
Well, he's not heavy. He's just
No.
but yeah, with Peter Capaldi being now 56,
Yes.
that obviously is going to be, he's not going to be as spry. He's not going to be leaping over things as much as like say David Tennant would be.
Yes.
But still has been like more. There's been more action. He's willing to kind of like in the classic John Pertwee sense that he's like the Robot of Sherwood episode where he's willing to get up there on that bridge and duel with Robin Hood. So it's not that he just stands around.
Yeah.
While everybody else does all the heavy lifting and action, he contributes.
Any thoughts about s8e5 showing all the famous bank robbers? And did you catch any?
Yeah. I caught most of them. I had to, because they were so fast, I had to like go back and confirm and do research and make sure I got them all. But
were there some Easter eggs?
Yes, there was definitely some Easter eggs. Okay, here's the rundown that I've got. If I missed any, my apologies. But this is what I compiled. Okay, so first we saw an Androvax from the Sarah Jane Adventures. Then we saw a Sensorite from the classic William Hartnell episode, The Sensorites, back in the day. Then Captain John Hart from the Torchwood episode Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which is a season 2 opener and a really great episode. Then we saw Absalom Doc, Dalek Killer, which was a comic book creation for Doctor Who magazine, which is, as many Doctor Who fans know, is basically the official Bible to Doctor Who because it's been around for so long and it's the official magazine for the show. But they have a monthly comic strip, and this character was created way back in the day by Steve Moore and Steve Dillon. A lot of people may know Steve Dillon from his work on The Punisher and Hellblazer and any number of comics projects. So he's a very famous artist. And then we also saw, let's see, a Slitheen, which I was wondering, it was like, was that Margaret from Doctor Who Series 1? We don't know, but maybe it could have been Margaret. Pteroleptal from the Peter Davison episode, The Visitation, excuse me. The Trickster from Sarah Jane Adventures, and the Gunslinger from A Town Called Mercy.
Very nice.
That's my rundown.
Did they have any? It looked like they had a couple of non-fiction, like Dillinger or other. Did they not have that? It looked like they were showing other bank robbers. No.
I wasn't sure. I mean,
okay.
it could have been, if like being the Doctor Who fan, I'm only focusing on the Doctor Who characters.
Very nice. Okay.
So there could have been historical characters there, but
Okay.
if there were, like I said, my apologies for not catching them. But
Okay. No,
they're
that was
they're very well could have been, for all I know.
yes. Well,
Those are the ones I caught and was
that's
able to compile.
very,
So
very impressive, Charles. That is, I have that was. I was.
I think it's great that they made Absalom Doc a comic
Mhm.
character actual canon now because he's
Yes.
appeared in the series.
Mhm.
So which is great.
And Cy had a really nice statement to Clara when he talked about that no one would care about him being gone. And so at this point, we're down to just our two adventurers.
Right.
We get the reveal because of the solar flares. It's not just a bank heist; it's a time travel heist with the solar storm, which I thought was really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they get caught, and they get in front of the bank director, and she's going to go off. And we get. I love that the doctor's going, "I'm having a very bad day." And they get that you're not having that bad of a day, and you're being very slow, which it isn't often you get to tell the doctor he's not staying caught up. And so
Yeah.
I thought that was just really, really a fun reveal.
Yeah, I think that was a nice dig at the
Mhm.
the doctor's older appearance, and
Yeah.
make kind of like, okay, yeah, we're acknowledging that maybe he's not the fastest doctor ever, but
Yes.
yeah, I thought that was fun.
Yeah, and I did not catch it. I did not see the reveal coming. I really thought they were gone because this show does go through red shirts pretty often.
And did it before Star Trek. So
Absolutely.
So if anything, Star Trek ripped Doctor Who off.
Right. Exactly. We make it to the private vault. Every time I go to a vault, I think of the Peter David, George Perez Hulk story.
Future Imperfect.
Yes, where they have his big collection.
I love that. Rick Jones is basically
Yes.
Rick Jones, the former sidekick to the Hulk,
Yeah.
has amassed this entire collection because he knows so many superheroes over the years. He's got like Captain America's shield, Thor's hammer, you name it, is in this vault.
Yes. And for those if you read about it, Peter David told George he needed X amount of items in the vault for the story points, but the rest of it was up to him, and George went crazy.
George, that's what George does.
Yes.
George Perez is a notorious fan of detail.
Yes.
As any longtime comics fan knows. And we love him for that because he will just go to town if you let him.
Right. And they had, regardless of comic book companies, universes, first off, it's a really good Hulk story. But that splash page is amazing, the details, and it doesn't matter the comic book universe, the comic book publisher. It went crazy. So that said, I did not catch any Easter eggs from that. Did you see anything that you recognized?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I've only seen the episode once.
Okay.
So if there are Easter eggs, which there very well may be, I did not catch them. So hopefully, like it'll be one of those like whenever the Blu-ray set comes out, I can see it in a nice high def and catch everything.
Mm-hmm. Good.
But go ahead.
We find out that the director uses clones and treats them as disposable, and then pretty unhappy with the quality of the clones.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny that Miss Carol Broxus kind of like busts on Miss Delphox being a faulty clone and is really willing to get rid of them, and the doctor just makes fun of her for that, about how she's just willing to kill her own clones, and I think that was great.
Yes, it was very much so. And shut up is not a polite phrase. It is not
It
a
is.
ni-
It is for me.
yes, it is not a nice word. If you're raising children,
Right.
you aren't. That's one of the things that you aren't supposed to say. But I did like how he did it. Shut up, or something.
Yep. Yeah.
And I love watching the doctor think, and he goes to Cyber and goes, "Okay, say it again. What you said? You quit shutting up." Yeah, like you unpause.
Yep.
Um, and she repeats her line about when you see yourself in your own eyes, it's not enjoyable. And that's when he goes on his little miniature rant about how he hates the architect.
Right. And then when he goes on that rant, yeah, like you said, I said that yeah, you knew that moment that he's talking about himself because only the doctor would hate himself so much because
Mhm.
they never get along with each other. And yeah, that was great.
Yeah. And just out of the blue, he gives her his phone number, and I'm a
Mhm.
time traveler. And he's kind of like, hey, I thought there was some chemistry,
Mhm.
uh, you know, um, and he sets up, you'll be old and full of regret.
Right.
And
Yeah, I'll be dead and you'll be old. We'll make a great pair or something like that.
yes,
Yeah.
and he
But
says, go ahead.
oh, I was just going to say that, yeah, that's that very important phone number to the TARDIS, and so I'm kind of like, I was wondering, like, well, is maybe Miss Carabraxis the one that gave Clara the um, the phone number to Clara?
Yeah, exactly, because they brought that up when the phone rang, that very few people have his number.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
I got
that was the only Missy mention we got this episode, if indeed Missy was the one who gave her the
yeah, we don't.
number.
Yeah, we still don't know, and we're not going to know probably for a little bit.
Hmm.
But we always thought, okay, well, Missy's probably the one who gave Clara the phone number in the Bells of St. John. But apparently, Miss Carabraxis has had this number for quite a while throughout
Right.
her life. So maybe she would. We don't know
Hmm.
when this story was really set. So
Yes.
it's possible that she could have been the one to give Clara the number.
Hmm.
Who knows?
Um,
Who knows? Who
hey,
knows?
who knows? I saw what you did there.
Yes.
Um, the teller comes.
Yeah.
The doctor willingly gives him access to his brain because he wants him to get rid of the block to help him remember. And he explains afterwards that if they had not blocked out what happened, the teller would have gotten it, and then the director would have known because they're locked mentally.
Right.
But we did get the great scene, so many memories. He talks about the big scarf, the bow tie, bit embarrassing.
Yeah.
The new look. I thought I
Hmm.
was minimizing, but ended up kind of looking like a magician.
Yeah.
I thought that was a really good line.
Yeah, it's obviously the current doctor always busts on his previous doctor, so yeah, he's gonna bust on their looks, but then he also kind of takes a little bit of a kind of a jab at himself, which was nice. That okay, that's a lot of people, at least online, when Peter Capaldi's first new costume was revealed, a lot of people called him they thought he looked like a magician. So I'm
Mhm.
wondering if like Moffat grabbed that and ran with it and is like, okay, that's what we'll do. We'll just refer to him as the magician, or use magician lines
Mhm.
when we're making fun of the doctor's costume.
Yeah. Then in typical heist fashion, you have the flash forward where you show what's supposed to happen, and then you have a flashback at the end where you show the setup. And so we
Hmm.
show all the doctor doing all this, where he had actually used the TARDIS to drop off everything where they needed it. And that was very cool.
Right.
And it was a rescue mission, right?
Yeah. And the ending to this kind of reminded me of the episode Hide from last season. That where you had that, the doctor goes off and figures out like, oh, by the way, this creature that is so menacing is just looking for its mate and wants to be together. So it just seemed kind of like a very similar ending to Hide, I thought.
That is exactly the point Brandon mentioned, and so now that I've gotten all your points in, Brandon, because he said the same thing. He said, didn't that just recently happen where the doctor, united a couple of creatures? But it was really cool to see them not in their kind of straitjackets and the chains and them going off being together.
Free.
Yeah, free. It was a cool thing, and I loved the camaraderie, showing in the TARDIS afterwards. They're eating, they're laughing, the doctor's telling funny stories. It was almost Firefly-ish.
Yeah, now maybe it was Chinese food they were eating. We don't know. It could have been from like some other alien planet somewhere, but who knows?
It sure looked like Chinese food.
It sure, as far as we know, it's Chinese food.
Yes.
But,
and
it could have been from Braxicorico falpatorius,
right.
for all we know.
Now,
because he knows a really good takeout place.
Yes. There was one interesting point. As he's dropping them off, he tells Sai. Sai tells him, if you ever want to rob another bank, let me know. And Clara's like, that's not really his thing. But the doctor kind of makes I'll call you, sign. Yep. That was pretty funny. And when Cyber hugs the doctor, and I know he doesn't like hugging, he rubbed his right arm. And he actually looked a little uncomfortable. Do you think that's just because she was hugging him too tight? Or is that...
Yeah, I think it's just... I don't think there's too much to be read into that.
Okay.
We never know. But,
right.
But from my take on it, yeah, I don't think it was anything to be read into. I think it's just more like, ooh, I've got like hugging on me.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay, that makes sense. And he gets Clara back in time for her date.
Yep.
Which is not always the case with the TARDIS. So,
I'm kind of surprised that she wasn't like, 3 days late or something.
Yes. Good. How about anything else that we need to discuss?
Let's see. There was no Missy cameo again.
Yes.
So that's still out there. We keep twiddling our thumbs, but maybe we'll get some answers at some point. Let's see. I think that's pretty much everything that I've got.
Okay. I did like he called Clara boss at the end, which is kind of a thing you do when, especially if someone isn't the boss, but they're it's always a pretty funny joke.
Yeah. Well, in general, I think that, and maybe I'm speaking the obvious here, but men's lives generally go better when they refer to women as the boss.
Yes.
It's like, you can be in charge, and my life will go much smoother that way.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a smart man, let's put it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And Jesse and I can approach that from years of experience with marriage.
Exactly. So is it my turn for line of the episode first?
Sure, why not?
Okay.
Go for it.
Calories consumed in the TARDIS has no lasting effect. And Claire, really? No, it's a time machine, not a miracle machine. I thought that was just wonderful.
Yeah, it's like it's a TARDIS, not a miracle worker.
Yes.
So it's like a nice shout out to Chief Engineer Montgomery Scott.
Yes, indeed.
Another Scott. So.
Yes.
But I like that. My line, is obviously going to be the, shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, shut it up, up, up. I just thought that was great. It's a very like Malcolm Tucker-esque reset from Peter Capaldi's previous role in the thick of it, and I thought that was nice. And then I also like the line, she hates her own clones. She burns her own clones. Frankly, you're a career break for the right therapist.
Yeah. I thought that was really well done, too. Let's see. So let's do our ratings.
Okay. You first or me?
I'll go first. I am going to give it 8.5 Chinese meals. So that's
Nice.
why I'm calling it Chinese, because that was my rating.
Well, you better hope it wasn't Vietnamese or something.
Exactly.
But okay, mine was 8 out of 10 memory worms.
Ooh, nice.
Thank you.
Very
Or
good.
at least I think it was 8 out of 10. I keep forgetting, but that's me.
Very good.
Ba-dum-bum.
So, what is your recommendation for Reverse the Polarity?
As we reverse the polarity this time, we're going to go back to season 16 from 1978 with the Ribose Operation. And this was an episode or a story written by Robert Holmes, who was one of Doctor Who's greatest writers on the series back in the day. And it's the first episode in a season-long story arc called The Key to Time. And classic Doctor Who fans should know this as like one of Tom Baker's greatest storylines, and it's one of Doctor Who's most ambitious, that at least from back in the day, where the White Guardian, this cosmic being called the White Guardian, assigns a female Time Lord companion named Romana, who is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Her full name, Romana Trevunda Lunder, and or sometimes like the Doctor likes to just call her Fred, but for short. But yeah, the Romana becomes the Doctor's new companion after Leela leaves, and joins K9 and the Doctor. They go off. Basically, they're assigned to collect these 6 segments of this thing called the Key to Time, and they're scattered across time and space, which sets up the season nicely because each episode or each story they go after one segment. And this first time they go to this planet called Ribose, which is kind of like this icy, crappy planet. And the segment turns out to be like it's disguised as this what they call this gem called Jethric, and it's placed among these crown jewels that are locked away. And they're watched by guards by day, and there's like this creature called the Shrivenzale Beast at night. So essentially you have kind of like a heist episode in that story, the Ribose Operation, because you've got to get in and get those crown jewels out so you can get to that first segment of the Key to Time. And there's even a beast there, like the Teller, that guards this thing. So that's my recommendation, and it's a really great episode. And like I said, it starts off an incredible season of Doctor Who that was overseen by Douglas Adams. So highly recommended.
Good. So we have a few minutes, so I want to pose a question to you, and then we have a little bit of feedback. We are 5 episodes into Peter Capaldi's time as a Doctor. I've been impressed with all 5 episodes. And I was thinking to myself, and I said, has there been a better first 5 episodes of a Doctor? Now, I can't go back to all 11 previous Doctors, but I did look up. I have seen all the 5 of the modern era. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking this would hold its own. Real quick, I think we can just go through. Krista Eccleston had Rose, The End of the World, The Unquiet Dead, Aliens of London, and World War III.
I like 3 of those 5.
Okay.
I think the first 3 are very strong, and they were great. They were a great introduction to the Doctor Who for a new generation. So those are definitely those first 3 are very important in this new era.
Right.
And they're it's. I think it compared against Capaldi's. I think it's a pretty fair comparison.
Okay, so David Tennant was The Christmas Invasion, New Earth, Tooth and Claw, School Reunion, Girl in the Fireplace.
And I like 4 of those 5, with New Earth being the odd one out for me. Christmas Invasion was a very strong introduction to the 10th Doctor. school reunion, we got the return of Sarah Jane and K9. So how great is that? And The Girl in the Fireplace, which is one of Doctor Who's modern classics.
Yeah, and I like Tooth and Claw, and
And
what's interesting is in School Reunion, I recognize that Sarah Jane Smith was a classic companion, but even I, without the background of seeing her older episodes and knowing her journey, was really struck by that. So I would agree with you. Matt Smith had The 11th Hour, The Beast Below, Victory of the Daleks, The Time of the Angels, Flesh and Stone.
I like 4 of those 5,
Okay.
with Victory of the Daleks being the odd one out for me. I thought that was a weaker episode by Mark Gatiss.
Mhm.
But The 11th Hour is, again, another modern classic. It's such a superb introduction. It's probably the strongest of
Mhm.
those first episodes between 9, 10, 11. And then The Time of Angels, Flesh of Stone 2-parter is I like, in the sense of the Weeping Angels, I like that story better than Blink, as far as Blink was creepy, but you really got a chance to see the Weeping Angels against the Doctor this
Okay.
time. And I thought those were really great, and you had a lot of great performances, and it was, I think, really interesting because The Time of Angels was actually the first story that Matt Smith shot.
Hmm.
So that was his first, that time on the beach where he meets River. That was his first day of shooting.
Oh, interesting. I did not
Yeah,
know that.
as the 11th Doctor. So yeah, I thought it was amazing that that they did the 11th Doctor. Maybe that's why 11th Hour, excuse me, is so strong, is because they shot that later.
Mm. And so Peter Capaldi is Deep Breath, Into the Dalek, Robot of Sherwood, Listen, and Time Heist.
And there's not really a bad episode out of those 5. I mean, there are weaker ones,
Right.
but I think his first episode was a little bit weak, Deep Breath, but it wasn't horrible by any means. I thought it was pretty good, and we've talked about how good it was.
Yeah.
So as far as the modern era goes, I think, yeah, maybe Capaldi has had the strongest 5,
I think so.
the first 5 anyway.
Yeah, because it is a really strong set. I know some people didn't like Robot of Sherwood.
Yeah.
I've seen a little bit of people not liking Listen. So everyone has different tastes, but overall, just in my opinion, I've given none of these episodes below an 8 out of 10 and could have really been, this is really good.
Hmm.
I had forgotten how strong David Tennant started off. That
Especially for not being in most of the episode.
yeah. So
So
yeah, I just think that's interesting. And then for some reason I thought the Vampires of Venice was an earlier Matt Smith episode.
it's like number 6.
Yeah.
So
But
so we could save that for next week after we do
yeah,
the first 6.
Yeah.
The first 6.
So
But
good. Okay, very nice.
I like the Vampires of Venice. So
Yeah. So
I think it all just
yeah.
depends on taste, because some people like certain episodes and some people don't, and that's cool.
Mhm.
It's your opinion. You're perfectly entitled to it. But yeah, as far as just my opinion and your opinion, I think Peter Capaldi's had like really strong 5 episodes overall.
And I think, as they say sometimes in sports talk, he's in the discussion. Like, when you talk about greatest quarterbacks,
Mhm.
Joe Montana is in the discussion. Whether you're a 49er fan or not, he's in the discussion.
You just alienated half our audience that hates sports.
Yes, but I'm just saying, and James Bond, whoever your Bond is,
Yes.
Sean Connery is in the discussion.
Yeah.
And you can
He's-
different things, and I think a lot of people would say by far he is. But so that's why there is certain, as we're talking about, there is a lot of goodness in this first 5 episodes, and you're wondering, are they gonna keep the streak going? I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll know more I think we can start really like comparing eras
Mhm.
better after this season ends.
Yes.
Because like Eccleston unfortunately only did one season,
Right.
series 1. So, and he refused to come back for the 50th for
Mhm.
his reasons. But so if we compare, like, we could compare Capaldi's first season against Eccleston's first season,
Mhm.
and see which era comes out stronger. So far, I think Capaldi's coming ahead of at least Eccleston.
Absolutely.
Now, whether he comes out ahead of Tennant and Matt Smith, that remains to be seen.
Mhm.
But I think that's so far in this first 5, I think he's coming ahead. He's got a much stronger set of episodes so far.
Absolutely. So, hey, Charles, I don't know if you knew this, but we have a
Hey,
Facebook
Jesse.
page.
We do?
Yes, we do. Next Stop Everywhere, the Doctor Who podcast on Facebook. And Teresa posted, loved your little colorblind casting tangent. This is why we watch things like Who and Star Trek.
From last week.
Yes, we want to think and analyze and keep working on furthering the progress of humanity as a whole. The thing under the covers is going to be scary as the Weeping Angels. Oh my gosh, I'm sure this will come back. And Brenda said about last week's episode,
Well, thanks, Teresa.
a friggin' scary episode. Didn't watch it alone. Don't watch it alone at night. This is now my favorite episode. Robots of Sherwood was, but got bumped last night when I had to watch with my feet tucked up under me on the bed.
Yeah, I totally agree because if nothing else, for me, Doctor Who is always at its best when it's creepy.
Yes.
So I hardly recommend something like Listen.
Yeah, and in our niece podcast, Cuckoo for Who.
Since we're the creepy uncle.
Yes, we are the uncle podcast. They were the niece podcast. For those of you who don't know, Molly does a podcast with her mom and dad, Rob and Martha, where they talk about the Doctor and the Doctor Who episodes. And when they discuss and listen, Martha said that socks were armor of your feet to keep you from getting grabbed. So I thought that was a great line. It is a fun listen. They have a very different perspective than us. Molly is young. She actually leads the podcast, and it is wonderful hearing a young fan's perspective of the show and his and her love of the Doctor.
Yeah, if you've got kids or you have kids or little brothers or little sisters that enjoy Doctor Who, they might actually dig that podcast because it should appeal to them to have another kid talking about Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of us crusty old people,
yes, exactly,
that you can get a much younger perspective.
Absolutely. So if you want to share with us your thoughts on this podcast or Doctor Who episodes or your thoughts on the first 5, please let us know. We can be reached at JWJ170104 is my Twitter. Charles, as I'm pulling up the other stuff, talk.
Yes, I'm at Charles Skaggs on Twitter. And then you can also find us at Next Stop SMG on Twitter.
Or Next Stop Everywhere, smg@gmail.com. And
email us.
Yes, and our Facebook page. We'd love for more likes. The ratings and reviews have slowed down a little bit on iTunes. If you've already rated us or ranked us, reviewed us, thank you. If you haven't, please do. We want to reach a wide audience, and this is one of the best ways we can reach people.
Yeah, we definitely want to know what you think. So, please let us know and give us some feedback because good or bad, it's always appreciated. And if we're not doing something you like, please tell us because we want to make this show better. So, just let us know. Drop us a line.
One of the things
we don't bite much.
That's right. One of the things I've heard, and people are very happy, is that Our feed is now in stereo.
Yay!
So thank you. We were working on that. So
Yes.
we appreciate your patience while we were working on that, getting that working.
It was driving us crazy too, people. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it wasn't just you. It was driving us nuts.
Yes. Anything else to add, Charles, before we close it out?
No, I just want to thank again everybody for who tunes in the podcast, because we can't do this without you. You guys are so integral to what we do, and we want to keep sharing our love. So yeah, please spread the word for us. We need your help, because we want to reach as many people as possible, and we want to build something up to a nice little community of people that just love Doctor Who and don't want to get bogged down in all the negativity and pessimism and cynicism that just runs rampant through the internet. So if you're one of those people that just tired of that and looking for something a little more upbeat, here we are. So it's up to you to let everybody know that we're here and we're doing this. And we want to keep things light and funny and fresh. And at least I'm going to try to be funny. I mean, I may not always be funny, but I'll try.
Same here. I'm doing my best.
We're doing our best here, kids.
Exactly. Hey, Charles, by the way, they can find you at your blog.
Yeah, Damn Good Coffee and Hot, which is my blog of geeky things, including Doctor Who, Next Up Everywhere, and you name it, The Flash, Gotham, Constantine, Arrow,
Supergirl this week.
Supergirl this week, because we got a brand new Supergirl series coming up.
Yes.
So, if you dig comics and sci-fi, I think you'll enjoy it.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again for listening, everyone, and I guess we will call it a episode. Keep hope alive, and remember, a man is the sum of his memories. A Time Lord even more so.
It's one of my favorite quotes.
Indeed. Thank you. We will talk to you next week.
Bye, everybody. Bye, everybody.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.